Hello there, and welcome back to Big Discussions. My name is Dr. Anwar Yusuf Dunbar. I am the creator of this channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. I'm also the creator of the Big Words blog site. Please go check that out. That information is on the banner of this channel. Today is March 15th, 2019. When I woke up this morning, I didn't think that I would do a video today, but then as I was sitting here working on something else, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna do one. The beauty of creating video content is that you can create it, unlike having to write something and then having to edit it and bring it to production and so on and so on. So, I mean, the other beauty of this is that you can, make content and get it up quickly as there are relevant stories going on in the news and in our world. So, there's something I wanted to talk quickly about, and I'm gonna, just for the sake of my own time, be quick with this one. But it's something that I was tweeting about yesterday on my first Twitter account, and it involves the this Hollywood scandal, this Hollywood Ivy League privilege scandal, where actresses like entertainers like Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin were paying to get their kids into Ivy League schools, and so they were able to buy their kids way into these schools, and their kids were able to likewise or subsequently leap over kids who may have been as academically qualified, if not more. So my blog has an education focus, and it also has a life and success focus. So this fits right kind of into my sandbox. So I'm not gonna, get emotional or get super political. Again, I try to address things from a more scholarly perspective, and I just try to introduce ideas and alternative ways of thinking and analysis. So I tweeted about this yesterday, and a couple things occurred to me as I was reading other people's tweets and reactions on social media. Once again, I have some notes here over on my monitor that I'll be looking at. So here we go. So first of all, myself, I tend to be an optimist, and I tend to see the glass as half full. And so I'm always looking at the opportunities and the bright spots in anything. And I saw other pieces or other aspects to this Hollywood education privilege scandal. And one of the things that as I was reading other people's feeds, I realized. So my mentor gave us a mentor gave all of us proteges copies of The Millionaire Mind as a reading assignment, and I am powering through this book right now. And in The Millionaire Mind, Dr. Thomas Stanley, the late Dr. Thomas Stanley, he really focuses and hits on the qualities that allowed the self-made millionaires that he studied here in the United States. He was focused on those qualities that allowed them to become self-made millionaires. And interestingly, many of these people did not go to the top schools. Many of these people struggled early on academically, and many of these people were told that they weren't going to be very successful in life. And this was, starting from K through 12 and into high school. So these people were not your highest scorers on the SATs. And they just weren't picked to, be high achievers, late in life. And so many of them use that as motivation. And the fact that they maybe weren't the most academically gifted people, it caused them to grow in other ways, which led them to being millionaires. Something else Dr. Stanley says in this book is that parents need to allow their children to fail, and they need to allow their children to experience some disappointment in life, because that's how they grow and that's how they learn to fight and claw and succeed in the real world. And I'm going to come back to this point. In one of his writings, I'm also a big Malcolm Gladwell guy. My mentor turned me on to Malcolm Gladwell years ago when he realized that I was writing and those kinds of things. And I think it was either in David and Goliath or it was in Outliers, which are books that I highly recommend. But Malcolm introduced something called the inverted U-shaped curve. And if I recall correctly, what that showed was that for a given situation, a given input will create an advantage up to a certain point, and then at a certain point, it starts to become a disadvantage. So one of the examples that he discussed was, I think, the privilege of wealthy children. And so that those advantages, those inherent advantages that they have when they're born, up to a certain point, can be advantageous, but beyond a certain threshold, those things can make those children lazy. Those advantages can make those children soft. Those advantages can make those children entitled. So the moral of the story here is that while these Hollywood people, the way I see it, while these Hollywood people have been looking to help their children in certain ways, they may be hurting their children as well, because their children aren't going to feel that disappointment of not getting what they want. They're not going to feel that disappointment of having to continue to try and try again and better themselves, and to have to continue to grind. And they're not going to learn early that the world is not a fair place. And I think all of us at some point realize that the world just isn't a fair place. And that hits everybody at different times, but the earlier you learn it, the better. So it's not a fair place for these rich kids, and it's not a fair place for lesser advantaged kids and families. But I think the key is figuring out how to persevere and how to continue to fight and grind and succeed and find those opportunities when it seems like you have none. And that's what the millionaires in this book were able to do. In terms of the world not being a fair place, you see a lot of talk about fairness in social media and in certain circles. And no, I don't believe the world is a fair place. I think that we're all dealt certain cards, and we have to do the best that we can with those cards, and maybe take our experiences and educate others so that they have a better chance than we did. Am I saying that what these parents did was right? No. Am I saying that what these schools did was right? No, I'm not. But also keep in mind that higher education is a business. And I'm going to come back to this quite a bit on my blog and here on YouTube. Higher education is a business. And so, just like everything else, elections, school systems, relationships, a lot of these things seem to ultimately go back to resources. Who has the resources, who doesn't, and those who have the resources have much more power. So it's not, a lot of this didn't surprise me, and it's not inconceivable to me that by having more resources, these parents were able to have a lot of influence over where their children went to school. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that it seems to me that in this society and in this world, having resources, is significant, and particularly in the area of higher education, which is a business. It's not a it's not a church. It's not a charity. It's not something that people are necessarily doing just for the hell of it or just for fun. Higher education is a business. So with that, let me look at my notes here. I think that's it. Let's see. Yeah, so it's important to be able to deal with adversity. It's important to learn how to compete, and rich affluent kids and families, while it looks like they have a lot of advantages in some instances, those children are being set up to fail and struggle later on at some point. I talked about 3 books in this vlogcast: The Millionaire Mind by Dr. Thomas Stanley, Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, and also David and Goliath, and also in terms of the fairness, there's a book by Charles Sykes. It's the X amount of things we don't teach kids in America. I'll leave the proper title, the actual title, in the description box below. But it's by Dr. Charles Sykes. So with that, I am going to conclude this video. Have a good Friday and a good weekend, and most likely the next one will be something science related, and it'll probably deal with outer space. So with that, I will conclude, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.